So, who is Jordan Peterson, and what's he all about?
There's no difference between that and the science that you practice. They're the same thing.
What do you think of
It's
that,
the
Richard?
same story. Okay, so is there a worse predator than serpentine, flying, fire-breathing reptile?
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a video with Bishop Barron, Jordan Peterson, and Richard Dawkins. Now Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins had a very fascinating conversation, and I want to show you a clip and a part of that conversation because I think there's kind of a clash in worldviews. Another thing that's interesting about this clip is I think that it fundamentally shows that Jordan Peterson's worldview or approach doesn't work with a naturalistic mindset. So the overarching theme of this video is apologetics. How are we to defend the faith? So I'm going to show a clip of Bishop Barron explaining the approach of Jordan Peterson and how he's trying to make sense of the world. We'll watch the clip, and then afterwards, we'll watch the clip of Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins and Alex O'Connor talking, and then afterwards, I will explain why I think that this doesn't work for trying to persuade people to become Christians. Let's go.
So, who is Jordan Peterson, and what's he all about? I think one way to get a handle on him is he's doing for this generation what someone like Joseph Campbell did for a previous generation. Namely, to present the archetypal psychology of C.G. Jung in a way that's very appealing and very provocative. So, Jung, of course, the famous disciple of Sigmund Freud, articulates this depth psychology based upon the idea of the archetypes of the collective unconscious. Call them these fundamental memories and instincts and ideas that influence at a profound level our behavior, can also appear in our myths and our stories and our religions and our rituals, etc. So unpacking the meaning of these archetypes, it was key to Jung and is now key to Jordan Peterson. And the Jungian template has enabled him to read a lot of the classic texts of our tradition, including and especially religious texts, the biblical texts, in a very fresh way that people are finding extremely appealing. Mind you, texts that are often dismissed as old hat or old myths and patriarchal legends and all that, he's been able to breathe life into them through the Jungian template. So that's a big part of his work.
This divine spirit behind the Bible is actually just the way that it has evolved throughout the human history, throughout the different manuscripts that we've had. Then saying that that is what divinity is, I think, for you may drag the mundane up into the realm of divinity. Mm-hmm. But I think for people like Richard and for many people listening, what it does instead is drags the divine down to the realm of the mundane.
Very well put, yes.
Well, I don't know why it would drag the divine down into the realm of the mundane if we're speaking of something like the straight and narrow path of harmony between multiple modes of being. I don't think it doesn't make any difference to me whether it's the material reaching upward or the divine descending downward. I don't think there's any difference between those two things.
You don't. That's exactly right. That's the problem.
Well,
You don't see the difference.
Well, look at it this way. So, for example, in this conversation, you know this to be the case. Like, there's various ways that this conversation could go sideways, right? Seriously, like either of us could try to win. Either of us could try to demonstrate our intellectual superiority, right? Each of us could misrepresent the other. Or we could both try, and I do think we are in fact trying that, and I think Alex is helping along with that just fine. We could try to follow the thread of the exploratory truth and see if we could get somewhere. Now, I don't think there is any difference between that, by the way, and what's expressed in the biblical texts as the spirit of the Logos. That's why we have dialogue.
I'm very interested in the possibility that truths emerge through evolving manuscripts. Now, that's a very interesting idea, and it's totally different from divine inspiration. And I want to pursue it because I don't believe in divine inspiration, but I would be prepared to believe in evolving manuscripts.
Well, I would say people don't know this literature, and it's. Let me give you an example of this. You tell me what you think about this. Okay, so I spent a fair bit of time studying the psychophysiology of the hypothalamus. Okay, so the hypothalamus is set up, it's got two halves, basically. One half deals with fundamental motivated states, hunger, thirst, defensive aggression, sexuality, and so forth. And when those areas are dominated, the biologically relevant goal is activated and perceptions are oriented towards that goal. Okay, so now then you might ask yourself, well, what happens if all those biologically motivated states are satiated? And the answer seems to be is that the other half of the hypothalamus kicks in and it mediates exploratory behavior. And so the default structure of the mammalian nervous system is, if satiated or in doubt, explore and gather new information. There's no difference between that and hero mythology. They are the same thing. They're the same thing. The dragon fight, for example, which is the oldest story we have. It's coded in the Mesopotamian mythology. The dragon fight story is explore the dangerous unknown, discover the treasure that revitalizes the community. There's no difference between that and the science that you practice. They're the same thing.
What do you think of
It's
that,
the
Richard?
same story.
I don't know what to make of that. I mean, you say they're the same story. You've analogized the dragon fight to
Well, how many
fighting
dragons have
Satan.
you overcome in your life?
I'm not interested in dragons. I'm interested in reality.
Okay, so okay, so I read a book a while back that described the biological reality of the dragon. Say, well, there's no such thing as a dragon. It's like, okay, is there such a thing as a predator?
Of course.
That's a meta category. What's the category of predator? Bear, eagle, if you're a primate. Fire? Is fire a predator?
No.
Well, it's complicated because a fire kills you. Okay, so is there a worse predator than serpentine, flying, fire-breathing reptile? Is that not the imagistic equivalent of predator? So in what way, if predator is real, in what way isn't dragon real? It doesn't take that much imagination to see the identity. And then wouldn't the fundamental task of edible primates be to figure out how to overcome the dragon forever?
I don't know why you say dragon. I mean, we have lions, we have tigers, we have saber-tooths, we have
Why not
tyrannosaurs
abstract?
out there.
Right, but why not abstract? Because it's for the same reason that we have the term predator. Like we have the term bear, lion, Komodo dragon. Well, you make an amalgamation, you say, well, the relevant set of features is an image. Well, what's the image? Predator as such. What's the image of that? The dragon that never disappears. And then there's a twist on that, which is so cool. It's so interesting because you can imagine rabbit mythology, which would be something like predator appears, freeze. But that's not the human story. The human story is predator appears, there's a treasure somewhere. Right? That's a completely different pathway of evolutionary significance. Like the way that we construe the world isn't freeze like predator. It's like, oh, there's a predator. Maybe there's something valuable lurking in our conflict with it. You know, our sticks and our spears that enable our fragile bodies to stand up against the dragons of the world.
So a dragon is a pictorial representation of the abstracted concept of a predator.
Yes.
As you say, we already have the term predator. And so it might be useful in art, in narrative, to, I mean, you can't paint an abstraction.
We had the image way before we had the word.
Sure, okay. But
No, but that's a seriously important thing to understand.
But now we have the word. We have the word predator. And maybe if we were doing art, maybe if we were all going to sort of draw a picture or tell a story, and we wanted to invent a story to give our children a good moral message, we might invent this dragon or use this dragon as...
Well, we do always. We
Sure.
do it continually.
Exactly, we do.
We do it with Harry Potter.
But-
we do it with the Lord of the Rings. We do it with the Avengers.
But when you
there's no
say-
escaping from
But
it.
when you say the biology of a dragon, you must understand how that can be misleading as to the enterprise that you're engaging in, because we're talking here about narrative, we're talking here about art, we're talking here about representations in literature.
I don't think the category of dragon is any less valid than the category of lion.
Any less biological?
Well, it depends on your level of analysis. We have the term predator, which implies that all predators have something in common, because otherwise we wouldn't have the term. It's like there's no reason to assume ontological priority for the category of lion over the category of predator. Like it depends on all that would determine which of those terms should be used is the purpose towards which the conceptualization is being directed. Predator, which implies that all predators have something in common, because otherwise we wouldn't have the term. It's like there's no reason to assume ontological priority for the category of lion over the category of predator. Like it depends on all that would determine which of those terms should be used is the purpose towards which the conceptualization is being directed.
Okay, so the main reason why I think it's so important that we see this clip is you can see that there's two clashing worldviews. There's kind of like a psychological, phenomenological approach to the world as seen from Jordan Peterson. And this is one way to kind of approach the world and approach maybe some of the issues that we don't have explanations for. And then the other is kind of a scientific worldview. So how you can think about it is Jordan Peterson is trying to conflate the transcendent with the immanent, or the supernatural with the natural. And what Alex O'Connor and Richard Dawkins want to do is they want to maintain a complete separation, actually a denial of the transcendent, and try to understand and make sense of kind of like the psychological necessity for the transcendent, the supernatural in the mind of people by some process of evolution. Both worldviews don't work. What we need is an approach kind of like what Thomas Aquinas did, but also even more, I would say. And we need to basically start with the Bible. We need to start with the Bible. We need to start with the presupposition that the Bible is truth and it's revelation. And then we need to work from that presupposition and show the other people why you should believe the Bible, predicated upon the historical resurrection of Jesus, for example, rather than try to persuade them to some phenomenological understanding of the world and try to talk at their level. We need just to go to the Bible and say, God revealed it, and there it is, and this is why we should believe this, because God has revealed it, and it's verified in the historicity of Jesus Christ's resurrection, life, ascension, all of that stuff. If we don't do that, we're just going to basically have meaningless conversations. And I think ultimately what this conversation was a meaningless conversation that didn't actually go anywhere. And the reason it didn't go anywhere is because they're both trying to persuade each other with their worldview rather than getting to, let's say, the simplistic truths and nature of the revelation of God in his word, and specifically in his son, Jesus Christ. Now, how would you go about doing that? You start with the Bible. You say, the Bible is true. That's my presupposition. Prove to me it's not that way. And when they say, well, da-da-da-da-da-da, you're going to have to basically say, da-da-da-da-da would be like, well, the Bible isn't true. It's a made-up fairy tale or story. Ask them to prove that. Can they prove it? And I think that will lead to a more fructifying and edifying type of conversation. It's the way Jordan Peterson needs to go. It's the way that the church has always gone with this. We have natural explanations for things, but it's always grounded in this understanding of revelation that God has revealed himself. That's St. Thomas Aquinas in his Summa Theologica. Summa Theologiae, I can never say that right, or Theologica, I can never remember what it is, but you know what I'm talking about. That's the approach we need to take. All right, that's all I have for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.